in fact, by the Premier of Victoria, Daniel Andrew, on Wednesday, last Wednesday, 20th of September. This is really huge, but I will try to explain to you the basics of it and what is it. Is it huge? But what is it? Why is it huge? And what is it? And how does it affect the residents, the people who live now in the public housing towers? Also, which towers will be first and when and how long will the whole thing will take? This announcement, as I said, is huge. And the reason it's huge is 44 landmark towers, which I think the announcement even said it somewhere, 10,000 residents live in them. 10,000 residents live in these towers. Were a landmark for Melbourne for decades and decades. They've been built in the 1970s. Big towers. If I show you some of them, these ones, for example, and some of the others are these. So these towers will be demolished. Retired is the word the government is using. I will explain to you when they be retired, demolished, will be put to an end, and which ones are the first, and what effect it would have on you, the resident who live here. To start, there's two announcements, pretty much two announcements. One, it was made the day before, it's still included in the later announcement, but there was a one the day before on Tuesday, where the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, and the Premier of Victoria, Daniel Andrew, made the announcement together. That was the first money or first buildings to be used or to be built. The money the federal government was working on for since it was elected to be passed by the parliament. The first of that money will be used, will be these two buildings. These two buildings, they called red flats. This one is 141 Nicholson Street, Carlton, and this other one is on Elgin Street, 20 Elgin Street. They've been vacant now, empty for close to a year now. So these buildings which are empty now and were to be renovated before, fixed, are now to be demolished, and they have at the moment, or they used to house 196 apartments made up of 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and one bedrooms. Each of them are 16 levels, 16 floors. Each floor has 6 units. Two 3 bedrooms, two 2 bedrooms, and 2 1 bedrooms in each level. There were some other things on the ground floor, which is a bit different because the ground floor wasn't used all of it. Other things were used, some of it. These will be built, and the work will start in the middle of next year, and they be finished, as you see on the announcement, by 2028. It will finish by 2028. You can see it here. Those ones you can see. Oh, sorry. All right, because you can see it here. By 20, those two buildings, 20 Elgin, Carlton, and 141 Nicholson Street, they be finished by 2028. So, but the work will start. The buildings are already empty. The work will start next year, middle of next year, or something like that. That's first announcement. The second announcement, which is huge, is the one talking about retiring older towers. 44 of them. 44 of them. There's a 44 of them scattered around Melbourne, like these ones. Some of them are in. These ones are in Flemington. Similar to these ones are in North Melbourne. Even some in Kensington, Carlton, and more of them are in Richmond. Sorry, continue from this way. Fitzroy, Collingwood, Richmond, South Yarra, even I think Brand, some of them have, South Melbourne, Port Melbourne, all of this very similar. They are same similar designs built in the 1960s, 70s. These all of them will be retired and been demolished. And therefore new buildings will be built. New buildings will be built. So when will this work start? This huge big one, when would it start? As the announcement says, the work will start in 2031. 2031. So that is, now we are 2023. So something like 8 years or something like that, 7 to 8 years. Easily say 10 years, around 10 years, the work will start. So therefore, that's the first answer to the first question of, is this immediate? No, it's not immediate. So just you have to be therefore be at ease that nothing is happening immediately in terms of people who live in their houses now, high rises. Other developments are happening as usual, but this announcement of the 44 towers, any tower where people live now, nothing will happen in the next 7 to 8 years, maybe even more. Nothing will happen. So, nothing is immediate. Now, after that, of course, it will be the normal process of you being offered. Every person who lives one of these houses will be offered a place somewhere else to live, an appropriate one. Something is not worse than what you live now. There's no guarantee it'd be better, or guarantee will be exactly the same, but nothing worse. That's the general rule. And then you will have the opportunity or first choice to come back when they are finished. So that's the second question. That you will not be thrown out, and that is some negativity going around, and people being led to believe maybe the government will just kick you out and say, "Oh, go away and find a house or find something while we fixing the houses, or we taking over," something along these lines. Some people are making it look like that. It's not. You will be housed. You will be relocated, and then when the place you are being moved to from now is being renovated and built, you have the right to come back if you want to come back. So I said nothing is happening soon. 6 to 7 years, 8 years more. Everyone will be given will be housed somewhere else, and they have a right to come back. And this thing is 44 buildings of the whole, all the towers, public housing towers, which were getting older or scattered all over Melbourne. Now, the question one can ask is why? Well, this is the first time it's been publicly very clearly said. Any government said, we're going to demolish, get rid of them, all of them. But there was always this, nagging question of, these buildings are becoming too old. They need a lot of fixing. They are not also the best when, especially the other high rises, which are modern, which are very not that far from them in the city of Melbourne, who's been built in the last 20 years, maybe even 30 years, 10 years, all the ones to be built. They're nowhere near as good as these ones when it comes to energy efficiency, how good they are to keep the heat out when there is a heat, and how good they are to keep cool when there is to heat out when there's a heat going on outside and make it cool inside, and also to make it hot when it's outside is cold. That's called what's called it energy efficient. So therefore, you either don't suffer and feeling very cold when it's cold and very hot when it's hot, or spend a lot of money to heat yourself or to cool yourself. So they're not very good for that. They therefore they're not very energy efficient. Not only that, a lot of things need to be fixed, like the pipes and the building. And a few years ago, I remember they were fixing that what they call like concrete cancer, the small breakdown of the cancer of the building, which makes it ugly. I don't think it makes it unsafe or anything, but it makes it a bit ugly. And also, it's been seen to be an what they call it's called eyesore in Melbourne. Which means understandable in a sense because all the high-rise buildings which is close to it are very modern and being built very recently compared to them. Therefore, they will not be in the same style. They were very probably beautiful and very, top of the state of the art when they were built, 60, 70 years, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, something like that. But they are no longer. So that's also another thing that the government want to do it. So that's a question of why. Why is it being built? And also there is also an assertion. There's always a fact of more of the land which belongs to the public now will some of it will become private, will be sold off to private companies, private developers, and the area will become more crowded. That is a fact. But it's also more houses will be built. That's the other thing. It's not efficiently utilized in the sense it could house more houses without making them so high, without making them so high. Now, the question is therefore, where is the start? I think this is a good sign, although even the government is saying it. First, the first towers, to go, the first high rise due for redevelopment by 2031. See, 2031 as part of the high rise redevelopment program are. So, it's interesting sometimes the statement was using retirement or retiring them, but also at the moment use redevelopment. But I guess maybe originally they were planning to redevelop them, and therefore maybe that redevelopment is being converted to retiring them. Is 120 Racecourse Road, 120 Racecourse Road. It is this one I'll show to you. This is the one. This tower is 120 Racecourse Road. 120 Racecourse Road. And there's other ones also. I don't exactly know which number they are, but that's another one. This is another one up here. And this is like four high-rise towers in Flemington. And so that is those one. And most of the other ones are similar to this one. So the first of the rank seems to be, 120 Racecourse Road, 12 Holland Court, Flemington, that area. Yeah, I think two has been identified or named in Flemington. 12 Holland Court and 120 Racecourse Road. 33 Alfred. 33 Alfred is also another one, North Melbourne. That's North Melbourne. 33 Alfred Street, North Melbourne. So those three buildings are named now to be the first of the rank to be retired. These two other has been already, like, they were empty. They were empty. These two red ones. These two red ones were empty. 20 Elgin and 141 Nicholson Street were empty. There's a new building here now. This is an old photo, but there's a new building private here. That building also was built 3-4 years ago. There is another building behind here, which is a public 38 Elgin behind this 20 Elgin there. So these two buildings are already empty. Instead of renovated, they be converted now to be, demolished and rebuilt. So they have 196 units now. 231 will be built, as I said it earlier. So those are the first. And as I said, these three, for example, specifically, we can say now, this one will finish by 2028. They don't start 2028, they finish by 2028. It seems to be there then shortly after that, 2031 is where the government will start demolishing people from 120 Racecourse Road, Flemington, and to Alif Holocaust and 33 Alfred Street, probably move them into here or some other places. And then it will go on from there. The whole process will finish, the planning now is to finish 2051. 2051. So it's like a 30 years. 30 years. So that is another sign that this thing is taking a very long time. So that is the announcement you'll be hearing. It is huge, it's big. I think it is a brave, very brave, premier, the government, to just say it. We're gonna spend the money, a huge amount of money, redevelop it, get rid of them, build a modern housing for people or Victorians who live in the public housing. I don't believe it can be underestimated. This is huge. It's significant. And it used to be whenever a building is to be renovated, one of these towers, or something happens, people will say, or all sort of things, the opposition, the other smaller parties and the activists will say rumors are to be demolished, and the government is planning some secret, not only Labour, the coalition too, some secret, all that kind of things. At the moment, what was the thing? The pigeon is out of the back, or thing, so to speak, because there's nothing has been hidden. Yes, the government is saying all of them, we're gonna retire them, we're gonna demolish them and replace them with the modern ones. So that's my view. What is my view about this thing? I really do believe this is a really good announcement. There's nothing saying it people will be thrown out into the street or people will lose, their houses. It only says these houses will be modernized, will be made, and people will still have access to it. They be housed somewhere else while these houses are demolished, whichever building is being demolished at that moment, and rebuilt. And when they are rebuilt, people who lived here, if they want to come back, they can come back to the area. Of course, the building, no longer that particular house in a room, but well built, very modern houses. So I don't believe anything to be worried. The thing there is some worry, and well founded, that yeah, more of a public land will go into private. That is, I think, is a very genuine, and I think it should be money minimized as much as possible, become a private. Although the government is saying a lot of other land are also even, given to some, developers, and the land will come back to government after 40 years. When we're talking about these developments will finish 30 years time, 40 years is not that long really. So a whole buildings or whole properties to be developed and people to live in them, and then after 40 years to come back fully into government hand. I think that's huge. 40 years is not that long, really. And things can change. Yeah, it's not that huge. Sometimes 50 years and 60 and 70. We're talking about these buildings now were built 60 or 70 years ago. So that's the other thing. But yeah, that word is there, that more of the public land, which is now public land, become a private, sold to the private companies. Also, there is a worry of more of might be handed over to community organizations or community housing, which is some people say it's not us government to own and manage and control it, housing. It is kind of it's not like a private, but it is kind of up there or closer to a private. That is some genuine, concerns. But the bottom line is the people will be housed somewhere while these buildings are built, and the government is promising no lesser than what's in place already. In fact, 10% more. 10% more will be added to. So if there was, as I said, example now of 196 apartments will be demolished in the 141 Nicholson or the red flats, and 231 will replace them. And I think it's a good also to be noted. It does look like those all 231, which will replace the 196, will all be, social housing or government or public, whatever, social housing. Not, it could be more houses, more than that will be built. I don't know how it's possible it is to be built, and therefore only 231 are government or public ones. Therefore, some others will be private. I don't know about that really, but at least the 231 of them, of at the moment where that we have only 196, will be a government owned or social housing. So in my view, it is really a good thing. It will renovate, it will renew, it will build a modern houses, more houses, and also a lot of the stigma which are, associated with these high rises and being seen to be, as I said, I saw, will also hopefully go away. At least it will not be as visible as they are now. So that is the announcement, and I hope this helped you. And I think, you should not be scared and be made to kind of think there is something, untoward is happening. It is just the government is renovating, or rebuilding houses as as they do normally, as the thing are. So this was a video I did on another, I actually did in Somali, which I'll try to also, if I missed anything, to you know uh, you know point out, just to the web page. High rise redevelopment is what the website in the DFH, the new department's name. It's a kind of a new abbreviation, the Department of Family and Department of Family, Fairness and Housing, DFFH. Department, it's a mouthful. It's a new thing to get used to it. That is the announcement. They put it in there, and so I was talking about what, and I, yeah, mentioned it like now. These are the first two buildings which are funded. The money, it comes from federal government, and yeah, of course the state government is responsible managing and running and all, and doing the work, but the money is coming from the federal government. And as was announced at that time, this is the first funding of any, the big funding the federal government was working on, that's been done for in Victoria, whole of Australia. The first funding for that money is been put to use in Victoria, and they are these two buildings. So you can say them they are a bit kind of unique somewhat. So and yeah, so this is the it just continues what I just earlier 44 towers, these buildings, other ones well which the government the department is announcing to be the first to go for what is this one? Some advertisement coming into the sorry. And yeah, so well, I pointed my earlier video, Carlton. Actually, there is no mention of Carlton in the first phase, other than being part of the bigger, announcement 44. But there is no mention of Carlton by name, no 510, no 480, 478, 530. None of this has been mentioned. And the first announcement, the only two buildings in Carlton are the two red flats who are in, 141 Nicholson Street and 20 Elgin. So that is kind of yeah, it's something to be noted. So the things which are named now to be the first of the rank is North Flemington, two buildings of Flemington, one building in North Melbourne, and then those red flats. I hope this was helpful. I'm Hamdi Ali. As always, anyone, especially people in Carlton, can ask me a question of what they, want to, if they want to understand more. A lot of people were calling me, and some people were actually very nervous and actually thought that they are be moved soon or something weird is happening because sometimes the media will bit sensationalize it, and then it's just they just playing their role, putting asking the questioning the government, attracting attention also by the public. They just make it everything as usual and as no one might watch the my anyone might not watch the news or whatever, so they have to make kind of little bit uh, what's good uh, entice it or make it a little bit, bit of salt and pepper. to so that makes some of people worry, especially when people didn't get used to it and don't understand the techniques that sometimes the politician opposition is used, the activists is used, and also media to get attention, be the attention. And sometimes you need to look very carefully what they asking, the question they asking, and how they asking. They're not necessarily saying this is very very bad. They just say something like, "This could be bad. Can the government guarantee, or can the government say that it is not bad?" It does not mean they say this is bad. So you have to really pay attention of how words are used, and so that's it. Hopefully, this was helpful to you. Thanks for watching. Thank you.